I've always wanted to have my life saved like a series, something I could look back on years later. And with YouTube, I was able to do that. From documenting my trips abroad to film school to the small everyday moments that make up my routine, I've been able to turn my life into episodes of my own story. What I've learned is that anyone can do this. You don't need a big crew or fancy setup, just some planning, a camera, and creativity. In this video, I'll show you how to film your life like a movie, all by yourself, from the very first idea to the final edit.
Hey everyone! If you're new here, hey, I'm Tala, and if you're not, welcome back. I have been vlogging my life on YouTube consistently for a year and a half now, and in this video I wanted to share all the things I've learned from YouTube and all the things I wished I knew before starting YouTube. I'm gonna go through the gear I use, my editing process, my filming process, and all the things in between. But first things first is finding an idea. Usually every vlog, YouTube video, movie always starts with an idea. And for me, since my channel is mostly a vlogging channel, my ideas revolve around what is happening in my life. So let's say I'm traveling next week, and the week after I'm going back to university, and the week after that I'm going to film school. I know already that my vlogs are going to be revolving around those specific topics, and this is how I actually plan them. Also, every time I have a vlog idea that I want to do, I always have it written down in my notes app. I would recommend you having an app. It could be the Notes app, it could be Google Docs, it could be anything that you feel comfortable with. If one week I don't have a video idea, I can just go back to my Notes app and I can try to create a video accordingly. Also, sometimes to find video ideas, I like to use online tools like, for example, vidIQ that will help me generate a video. For example, on vidIQ, I could find some trending keywords on YouTube right now or some trending videos in order for me to try to find ideas for my future videos. So now let's talk about planning. So once I have my idea, I can start planning my vlogs. And the way I like to go about it is breaking my vlogs into scenes and sub-scenes. Since I really cannot script my vlogs, I write down some general ideas around the vlog I'm filming on my Notes app, and then I just film around it. So let's say, for example, I know that next week I'm going to be filming a week in the life in Beirut. So I know, for example, on Monday I'm going to the beach, on Tuesday I'm going to have lunch with my mom, on Wednesday I'm going out partying with my friends. Those are going to be my main scenes, and all of my sub scenes are going to be everything that goes in between those scenes. So for example, going to get coffee, hopping into a taxi, the drive to the place. So those are going to be the sub scenes, and the main scenes are going to be the main things I'm doing that week. And this is how I go about planning. So I just know what are going to be my main scenes, and I try to not forget to film for my sub scenes in order to make the vlog flow. Not really one way on how to plan a vlog. It's really up to you and up to your style and up to how you like to plan your vlog. So now that we have an idea and we planned our vlog, let's talk about the gear that you need to be using to film this vlog. Most people think that you need crazy gear to start a vlogging channel, but that's not true. I know many people that start a vlogging channel with just their iPhones. So an iPhone can do the trick, but of course if you want some fancy gear, you can go as fancy as you want and you can buy as much cameras as you want. My first vlogging camera was this camera, which was the Sony ZV-1F. This is personally one of my favorite cameras ever. It is so lightweight. You can put it anywhere. You can fit it in your bag, in your purse, anywhere basically. It has this flip screen. The quality is amazing. Also on this camera there's the intelligent shooting mode, so it's like automatic setting. So you don't need to really know how to use the camera to shoot on that. If you're looking for a beginner's camera, this could be one of my suggestions, and it's on the more affordable side. So yeah, that's one of the options. A couple of months ago, I upgraded my camera and I bought a more fancy camera, which is the Sony ZV-E10, and this is the camera I'm filming on right now. I have two different lenses for my camera. So one of my lenses I use for my vlogging shots. It's a wider lens. This is what I'm using right now. And then I have another lens that I use mostly for my close-up shots. So I have many tripods. I have this tripod. You can adjust it as much as you want, and this is considered my larger tripod. You pretty much decide how you want your camera to be facing. I also have a handheld tripod, and I'm using it currently right now. The tripod I use mostly when I'm going out, so I hold my vlogging camera example and I just vlog using the tripod. It's easier in terms of grip and I can film easier with that. And also I use this tripod a lot when I go out. If I want to have those cinematic shots, I can just put my camera somewhere a bit further away and I can just walk away and I can film with my tripod. So I would really recommend buying a handheld tripod. It really will save your life. Another one of my favorite gear equipments is a microphone, but unfortunately I left all of my microphones back in Canada. So if you watch my vlogs, you know that I live in Canada and I came to Lebanon for a couple of weeks during the summer vacation. The way I film my vlogs here right now in Lebanon is I just go on my phone, I go on the voice memo app, and I just sometimes, if I want to record audio, I can just record them on my phone. So let's say hello, hello, and then I just export this audio to my laptop and then I add them during my editing process. A microphone is really important because if you're filming outside and let's say you wanna put the camera here and film from very far, a microphone really helps you get this clear audio from afar. Another thing I would invest in if you're creating vlogs and you have a YouTube channel is to get a hard drive. This is a hard drive that I have. It's 1 terabyte. And when I finish editing all of my vlogs, just dump all my footage in this hard drive so that my laptop doesn't explode. And this is a way you can save all of your footage in one place. And the last thing I'm going to talk about in the gears part is a USB converter. This is something very useful because I have a Mac. This is how I upload all my footage from my camera to my laptop. I take off the SD card and then I put it in this converter and then it directly uploads into my Mac. So now that we have an idea, we planned it, we have the gear, so now let's go into the filming process and how do I film my videos. Since my content is mostly vlogging, I usually just go by filming my day and I try to make it as natural as possible. So for example, if I'm going out for lunch, I just take the camera, film the food, try to make it as natural as possible and don't like try to create scenes just for the vlog. Also what I like to do is try to capture moments with different angles. For example, sometimes I'll put my camera on a tripod and put it down and then I'll try to walk into the frame. Or for example, if I'm leaving the house, I would put the tripod with the camera behind the door. I would film myself leaving and then I would come back and grab the camera. Really with time, you'll try to figure out new angles, different ways of filming. It just comes with practice. For example, if you watch my first vlog, you'll realize that I had barely those in-between shots, those shots of me walking into frame or getting my coffee and so on. It's mostly vlogging, but with time, I started getting used to getting more content, how to make content, how to put my tripod down and when to put it down and when to shoot. So it really comes with time. Also, what I've learned, always better to have more footage than less footage. So try to film as much as possible when you're out because you'll thank yourself during the editing process. One thing I want to add to my filming process, there's 2 types of footage that you can film. There's the A-roll footage and the B-roll footage. A-roll footage is basically like the footage that is on right now. So it's the footage of me telling you what is happening, what is going on, and me talking to the camera. So for example, when I'm vlogging, if I'm vlogging and saying, hey guys, I'm at the beach, so this is A-roll footage. B-roll footage is me showing you what is happening. For example, if I'm at the beach, the B-roll footage would be me showing the beach. The close-up shots of let's say me walking into frame, me leaving the house, this is all B-roll footage. And this is how I go about filming. I always think about those 2 types of footage. So now let's talk about editing. This is my personal favorite part of this journey. I love editing and I love post-processing. I believe that editing is where your vlog actually becomes a story, and to me, editors are the people that make you feel the story, from the color grading to the sound to the music and so on. In terms of editing softwares, I use CapCut and I use DaVinci Resolve. CapCut is very user-friendly. It's very easy to learn how to use CapCut, and there's a lot of features on CapCut that allow you to edit. So for example, there's so many sounds that you can find on CapCut. There's many effects, many transitions. CapCut is really easy to use and has a lot of features. There's the free version and the pro version. So I personally like the pro version because there's a lot of extra features on that version, but you can still use the free one. It's a really good editing software and it's really good for beginners. I also use DaVinci Resolve for color grading. So DaVinci Resolve have a lot of features in terms of color grading. So what I do is I edit everything on CapCut and then in the end I put it on DaVinci Resolve and then I color grade my video. But of course it really depends on you. It really depends on what software you prefer editing on. This is my personal way of editing, but of course this is not the only way and there's 1,000 other ways. And the way I go about editing is the following. So I think about it in 4 different parts in terms of footage, sound, music, and color grading. First of all, I start with my footage. So I import all my footage and I drag them into my timeline on CapCut and I start with the rough cut. So in my rough cut, I will cut out everything that I don't need in my vlog anymore, and I'll start organizing my A-roll with my B-roll footage and trying to make a story out of all the footages I have. Once I have my rough cut done and I have my story and all my footage is well defined, I like to focus on music and sound. And music and sound are very different. So sound is mostly like the sounds that things make. So for example, if there's a bicycle that is crossing, you know the bicycle sound, like this sound? This is sound. And then there's the music. Personally, I love adding music and sound to my vlogs and videos because this is what makes the story and this is what makes you feel the story. For example, if I'm gonna take clips and I'm gonna put sad music on top of it, you'll feel something completely different than if I take the same clips and I put some happy music. So let's try it out. For example, those are some B-roll shots. I'm gonna put the sad music and look how it's gonna turn out. But if I put some happy music, you'll just feel something completely different.
We had so much love.
For Exactly. So now let's talk first of all about music, and then let's talk about sound in detail. How I go about choosing my music. I use Epidemic Sound to choose my music from. This website offers a lot of non-copyrighted music. Be careful not to use copyrighted music because YouTube will strike your account. However, there's a fee on Epidemic Music Sound, but I would definitely recommend investing in that if you're planning on opening a YouTube channel. In terms of sound, I love adding those background sounds that you can hear. You might not realize at first hand, but if you add some background sounds to your footage, so for example, if I have this camera and I put it on the table, if I add the sound of the camera going on the table, I really feel that that adds a lot to the vlog. And you can find a lot of different sounds on CapCut or on Epidemic Sound. For example, if you need the car sound, you can just type in car sounds and you'll find a variety of different car sounds that you can add to your videos. This is what really elevates your editing skills and your vlog. For example, in my vlogs, most of the time I remove the original audio of the vlog and I add the artificial audio because they're much better and they don't have those like weird sounds in the back. And I add those sounds in order to make the vlog better and just adds a touch to it. For example, in this clip, the audio is completely artificial. I added the audio to it.
I sure hope you've enjoyed our new album here on CBS Records.
Now that I have my footage, my sound and my music, I like to go through my footage a couple of times in order to make sure that I didn't leave anything in that I didn't want, to make sure that everything is flowing properly and the edit is looking good, and then I will save it. And I will take the footage from CapCut and I'll put it into DaVinci Resolve, and then I will color grade my footage. Color grading really adds a touch to your videos. You can make a clip feel a completely different way with color grading, and I'm trying to get better and better at it. If you're interested in me talking more about color grading and how I go about it, feel free to leave a message in the comments below. Now that my footage is color graded and everything is good to go, I will save my footage and this is my final cut. And this is how I usually go about my process. But as I mentioned before, some people like to color grade in the beginning. I do it that way just because I like to use two different softwares for editing and color grading. So that's why this is my timeline. It really depends on your personal preference and how you like to edit. And before ending my video, I just wanted to add a couple of tips that I've learned throughout the year. The first tip I can give you is, what I like to do sometimes is to start the audio before the clip. What do I mean by that? So if my first clip is me showing, let's say, my camera, then in the second clip I'm going to be talking. What I will do is I show the camera and then I will start the audio beforehand so that the transition is smoother and the pace keeps going. So this is a trick I really love to use, and that really makes my vlogs more fast-paced and like smoother. Something else I love to do is to show more than to tell. What that means is that, for example, I'm talking to the camera. I always like to add some B-roll shots while I'm talking so that people don't get bored, and it's a way of telling the story in a more engaging way. Another tip is something very basic, but I really realized that it makes so much difference. I realized that once I don't do it, it really makes a difference if I do it or I don't. It's cutting to the beat. So let's say you have many shots, you have many B-roll shots that you want to show. Always try to cut and edit at the beat of the music. It will make your video feel more intentional and like even smoother. I really recommend doing that. I know it's something very basic, but it really makes a huge difference on your final product. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you want a part 2 on any specific topic, so for example, if you want me to go in detail about planning, filming, editing, and so on, please leave it in the comment below. And yeah, maybe I'll do a part 2. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye, and happy filming and editing.